Long ago, in the ancient lands of Canaan, there lived a young man named Joseph. Little did he know, his life would be a journey of betrayal, slavery, and ultimately, redemption. This is the story of how one man's faith and resilience transformed the fate of a nation. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob and his father's undeniable favorite. This special affection was symbolized by a magnificent coat of many colors, but favoritism often breeds jealousy. Joseph's older brothers resented him deeply, and one day, Joseph had a dream. In his dream, he saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves when suddenly his sheaf rose and stood upright, while the others gathered around and bowed down to it. When he shared this dream, they despised him even more. Then, Joseph had another dream. He told it to his brothers, saying, "Listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun, moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." This second dream only intensified their resentment, and they became even more determined to find a way to silence him. So, they plotted together in secret, determined to rid themselves of Joseph once and for all. One day, when Joseph went to check on his brothers in the fields, they saw their opportunity. As Joseph approached, they seized him and stripped him of his coat of many colors. They threw him into an empty cistern, leaving him to die. But when a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by, one of the brothers, Judah, suggested they sell Joseph instead. For 20 pieces of silver, they sold Joseph into slavery, and he was taken to Egypt. To cover up their betrayal, the brothers took Joseph's coat, soaked it in the blood of a goat, and brought it back to their father, Jacob. With tears in their eyes, they presented the bloodied coat to Jacob, who immediately believed that his beloved son had been killed by a wild animal. Heartbroken and inconsolable, Jacob mourned the loss of Joseph for many days. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. Despite the hardship, Joseph remained faithful and diligent, and God was with him, blessing everything he did. Soon, Joseph found favor in Potiphar's eyes and was put in charge of his entire household. But Joseph's trials were far from over, as Potiphar's wife cast her eyes upon him and tried to seduce him. When Joseph refused, she falsely accused him of assault, and Joseph was thrown into prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. He found favor with the prison warden and was put in charge of all the other prisoners. While in prison, Joseph interpreted the dreams of 2 of Pharaoh's servants, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. Joseph's interpretations were accurate, and the cupbearer was restored to his position, just as Joseph had foretold. One night, Pharaoh had 2 troubling dreams that none of his wise men could interpret. It was then that the cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh about him. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and, with God's help, interpreted the dreams. He explained that Egypt would have 7 years of great abundance followed by 7 years of severe famine. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him as the second in command over all of Egypt to prepare for the coming famine. During the famine, Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy grain, not recognizing the powerful ruler before them as their long-lost brother. Joseph tested them, wanting to see if they had changed. When the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, the brothers were filled with fear and despair, but they did not abandon him. Instead, they returned to Joseph, pleading for mercy. Seeing their genuine remorse and love for one another, Joseph revealed his true identity to them. The brothers trembled, fearing retribution for their past sins. Joseph told them, "Do not be afraid. What you intended for harm, God intended for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph embraced them, forgiving them for what they had done. Joseph then invited his entire family to live in Egypt, where they were reunited with their father, Jacob, and lived in peace and prosperity.